the fastest plane to ever release for Microsoft Flight Simulator is the Darkstar. We can see that right here. Its top speed is Mach 9, and we're going to see that right in this video. The plane is available for free to absolutely everyone who owns Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's a part of the Top Gun DLC, Maverick, which released on the 25th of May, just yesterday. In this video then, we're going to talk about that DLC, as well as the recent developer Q&A. The developers spoke about performance and stability issues for the Xbox, as well as some details for the upcoming Sim Update 10. Let's begin then with a couple of questions that come up about the recent Maverick DLC. And just so you know what's in that content, there's some challenges for the FA-18, this brand new plane here, the Darkstar, which can achieve Mach 9. There's also a tutorial built in that teaches you how to get the plane up to that top speed. It's a very specific process, so you'll need to follow it step by step in order to reach that top speed. Of course, one of the other things I know a lot of people have been waiting for is the addition of the aircraft carrier. It turns out that the aircraft carrier is available as a landing challenge for the FA-18. Unfortunately, much to a lot of people's disappointment, and I'm pretty disappointed about this as well, is that the aircraft carrier is not available in free roam mode. It's not available on the world map, so you can't choose to spawn there or fly around it. It's only available in the landing challenge and not available anywhere else. Not really sure why Microsoft went with that particular decision, but they did say they are thinking about putting it into the open world map, but not something that's available right now. Of course, some people will try and spawn it in through the SDK, or there may be even some mods to do the same, but as yet, that's not a default part of the sim. So, a bit of a strange decision and fairly disappointing, as I say, but overall, that said, the Maverick DLC is certainly a very nice addition to the sim. Now, moving on to the developer Q&A. Perhaps the most important subject they touched on was performance and stability for the Xbox. The situation here is fairly problematic. Along with the arrival of Sim Update 9, many Xbox users found themselves having some significant problems. These were frequent crashes to desktop. Basically, the entire flight sim application would shut down repeatedly and become fairly unusable. Now, Jörg Newman, head of Microsoft Flight Simulator, discussed this, and yes, he said the obvious, something went wrong. A bit of an understatement, perhaps. Now, what this turned out to be is that the update system for Flight Simulator on Xbox had been changed. This meant that certain updates will run in the background whilst the sim itself is running. Asobo stated that if certain actions were performed within the menu, they didn't elaborate on what those actions were, but certain actions, when combined with the sim updating in the background, would cause the sim itself to crash. Another bug that would cause crashes was the game writing to certain information to the cache on consoles. So all these crashed desktops were fixed fairly quickly. They did get a hotfix out there. However, the crashes could corrupt the game's cache, which would cause further problems, and this is what led to some of the more significant issues that we heard about over the previous weeks. So what are Microsoft going to do about all of this? Well, Sim Update 9 had a 1-month period of testing, and that really should have been long enough, at least we would have thought so. So that testing phase also included tens of thousands of users. Despite its broad reach then, they never actually encountered any of these crash-to-desktop bugs. They didn't appear until the sim reached live. So something clearly went very wrong here. Microsoft are very much aware of that and are going to need to deal with it. And they say the way they're going to deal with it is to allow more time for testing. And this means that they need to slow down the release cadence of sim updates. They also suggested they may need to slow down the release cadence of world updates as well, although that's not guaranteed. Either way, Microsoft feel the solution is increased testing time. Moving on to a different subject. You may remember previously that Microsoft discussed huge GPU performance, or huge GPU usage rather, when in the game's menus. Now, understandably, a number of players have had concerns about this, largely because of the power draw and just the seemingly unnecessary requirement of having high frame rates and huge GPU usage when in static menus. Now, Asobo have said they will deal with this, and their way of dealing with this is to add an option into the developer menu. What is this option? Well, it's a power saving mode. This will reduce the amount of the amount of power that your system is drawing when running Microsoft Flight Simulator. Naturally, reducing power consumption will also have a knock-on effect to performance, meaning that frame rates will drop. This, though, shouldn't matter when in menus. Now, this does seem a bit of an unusual solution, but keep in mind this is an experimental feature for Sim Update 10. Depending on feedback, it should arrive as a full feature in the core menus for Sim Update 11, and Asobo even discussed a potential key toggle to allow people to enable and disable this power saving feature as and when they see fit. There's two other topics that are worth talking about for Sim Update 10. One is camera shake at touchdown. Now this has been in the sim for a very long time, but it is going to be improved. Essentially, very few people have noticed the current camera shake as it's too minor, far too gentle. Asobo are very cautious here as they don't want to increase it by too much and therefore cause people problems, but they're well aware that it needs to be increased a little bit because right now it doesn't appear to be happening at all, just far too subtle. So that's something that's coming with Sim Update 10. DLSS is also a possibility for Sim Update 10 but not guaranteed, currently in testing. Asobo say they're pretty happy though with the current testing and it seems to be going pretty well. The same situation is true for multi-monitor support. This is dependent on how it goes in testing, but assuming everything goes well, that also might make an appearance with Sim Update 10, so fingers crossed. Microsoft haven't given a release date for Sim Update 10 just yet, but it seems very likely July is a possible window there. Meanwhile, two other subjects came up. One is private sessions. This would be the ability for simmers to jump into Microsoft Flight Simulator and create private sessions just between them and their friends, and this would prevent interference from outside simmers. Sometimes simmers set up huge events and they get a little bit interfered with by people just out to cause trouble, so private sessions would be a potential solution for this. This is something that Microsoft are working on, although judging by the way they discussed it, it seems unlikely it's going to make an appearance anytime soon. Another interesting subject is the topic of piracy. Now this surrounds third-party content, planes, airports and all those other lovely things, and there's some concern that all of this is being shared on piracy sites. Now Microsoft have said that their own store, the in-game marketplace, has DRM protection, so anything released on there that automatically gets DRM protection, preventing this from being easily shared outside the sim. The issue seems to be surrounding concerns for third-party stores, however. They didn't list any examples of which third-party stores, but the suggestion there being that they don't actually have too much in the way of third-party protection. There has been some suggestions that Microsoft extend their DRM protection to these stores, but Microsoft say they haven't got an easy solution that would make that possible. Now, I'm not a developer, but this does seem like a perfectly plausible explanation from Microsoft. After all, should Microsoft really be responsible for the security of assets placed on third-party stores? Seems a little bit unreasonable to expect that, at least to me. And on a very final note here, the subject of an in-game livery editor was mentioned. Now this is something that Jörg Newman said he very much wants to add into the game, but expressed a little bit of frustration here because there are a lot of other priorities that need to come before this. So whilst an in-game livery editor is a very much desired feature, it's not especially high on the priority list right now, so something for further down the line. That then brings us to an end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.